And we're live on another episode of Football Palestine Extra, the podcast where we break down everything that's happened in the past week in the world of Palestinian football. If you're new here, consider subscribing. If you're already subscribed and you like the content that we put out, specifically this weekly video / podcast, consider upgrading to a paid subscription. It helps us do the hard yards as far as reporting, talking to sources, and getting all the news you could possibly want about the Palestine national team and Palestinian footballers abroad. So this week, we're in the middle of January. There's transfer activity happening, so we're obliged to talk about that. But I want to do something a little bit different, and that is talk about the Palestine Football Association a little bit. So we'll talk first about transfers, what's happening with the footballers who are based abroad playing for their clubs, and then we'll transition into talking about the FA and their plans for the short and long-term future, which I think is very interesting. And one of the things that makes us different from maybe any other outlet, fan page, what have you, that talks about Palestinian football is that we speak truth to power, and we're not afraid to criticize coaching staff should they deserve it, or the Football Association and its president should they deserve it as well. And I think if you just look back at our reporting over the past month, you'll see that that is definitely the case. And this is why I think supporting Football Palestine is important and necessary work. So if you can spare a little bit for a paid subscription, please consider subscribing to Football Palestine. So without any further ado, let's talk about the transfers that have happened this past week and that are slated to happen maybe sometime later this month. This past week, as you might have seen in our latest article, we've got the move of Hamid Sawafta to Al Masri. I think this is a fantastic move for the player. Hamid Sawafta is 25 years old. He was born in 2000. And really before these past couple months, he was a bit part player for the national team. He was a guy that he got a chance to play abroad in Iraq. He did okay, but he came back after one season, was with Merkez Balata when the war started, the league stopped, and then he sort of bounced around a little bit. He went to Assault in Jordan, was there for a couple months, then got an opportunity in Libya, didn't play in Libya, then got an opportunity in Qatar in the second division to finish out the season there, and he got a string of, I think, 6 or 7 games to end the season, and really Al Wahab, the team he went to in Qatar, their fortunes turned upon his arrival. He did a really good job being this two-way energetic player in midfield. That resulted in another offer from Assault in Jordan, and he went from strength to strength. He probably has a case for being one of the best players in Jordan outside of the big three. The big three being Al Faisal, Al Wahdat, and Al Hussein. These are kind of the 3 teams that win the league year in and year out. And so, with that, he kind of parlayed that into getting another chance with the national team. And what helped him was Ihab Abu Jazar, who he worked with at Olympic level, became the national team manager and was willing to kind of give everyone a fresh start. And so if you kind of look at who started getting called up and who started getting favored by this coaching staff, it was a new set of players in midfield. Hamid Hamdan is another guy that went from being uncapped to being kind of the centerpiece in midfield. Hamid Sawafta joined him. Jibirl Rajoub did retain his position, still a very important veteran player in midfield. Jabir as well, although he's been sidelined with injury. We see now the likes of Agustin Mansour come in as well. And then some of the older players have gone by the wayside. Jonathan had a really weird renaissance under Makram Daboub in the final couple of months he was at the helm. And then the one guy on the outside looking in has been Mohamed Rashid, who has not been called up since March 2025. So Hamid Sawafta has, kind of elbowed his way into a position on the national team, and credit to him, he went from strength to strength, because, if you told me that Hamid Sawafta was going to get this transfer to the Egyptian Premier League from a big club in the Egyptian Premier League, likes of Al Masri, at the start of November, I would have been very dubious about that. I would have said, yeah, this is probably one of those moves where a Palestinian player goes to Egypt and rides the bench, and then in like 6 months has to terminate his contract in order to find playing time. And now there's no guarantee that Hamid Salafta will get the playing time that he wants, but the way they've unveiled this transfer it seems to tell me that the club wants him and sees him as an integral part of their future, right? He's also been signed to a contract that I think runs until 2029, if I'm not mistaken. So this is a long-term contract. Al Masry has made a serious commitment to Hamid Salafta. And he's a player that I think can do a job in multiple positions, right? He can be a little bit more defensive if you need him to be a little bit more defensive. He can be a little bit more attacking if you need him to be a little bit more attacking. We saw him play as a right back, and he was actually quite good as a right back with the national team against Algeria, and also during his time in Iraq in his first professional stint abroad. So, 25 years old, you go play in Egypt. For me, I think Egypt is an underrated league. I think playing in Egypt is a real good test of your level. And if you can make it in Egypt, then you can make it really anywhere else in the Arab world. Other people might argue that, hey, Morocco is actually a better league. Saudi Arabia, Qatar are better leagues. But listen, if you can play week in, week out in Egypt for a club like Al Masry, you're going to have your pick of the litter of where to go in the Arab world. And, at 25, you still have an outside chance of maybe going to Europe if that's what you want, right? And before anybody sort of pushes back and says this is a bad move, Egypt's been good for a lot of Palestinian players. Okay, there are some Palestinian players that didn't have the best experience over there, but just look at the likes of Hamid Hamdan, look at the likes of Badr Musa, Khalid Mabriz. These are guys that went directly from the league in Gaza to Egypt. Yeah, they had to bounce around a little bit to find a home, but Badr Musa has a home in Petrojet. Hamid Hamdan had a home in Petrojet for a very long time. Al Masry, 6 Palestinian players have played there before. I mentioned 5 of them in the write-up that I did, and somebody reminded me that, hey, actually, Ramzi Saleh played for Al Masry as well. So Hamid Salafta will be the 7th, and Ramzi Saleh got his chance, Yasser Hamid got his chance, Mohamed Saleh got his chance, Mahmoud Wadi's got his chance. So everyone, with the exception of Mohamed Bellah, who got injured very early on in his time with Al Masry, did well for Al Masry, and they went on to big clubs. Yasser Hamid had a falling out with the club, but he ended up at Rayyan. Mohamed Saleh also had a falling out, but he went on after that to have one of this amazing season in the Egyptian league for Eastern Company, where he was defending, scoring goals, doing everything, trying to prevent that team from getting relegated. And then also ended up at Rayyan in Qatar. Mahmoud Wadi, more than $1 million move at the time to Pyramids off the back of his form at Al Masry. So it's a club that has treated Palestinian players well, and I think if Hamid concentrates and makes it his mission to prove himself, this could be a very fruitful move, and this will be a fruitful move for the national team as well. Because, like I said, I don't know if before really the friendlies that we played in Spain, if I had seen him as a critical piece of our midfield. It was just a name in midfield that could play there. But he proved during the Arab Cup that he can provide a lot, and he's only 25. So if he continues to improve, then Palestine's midfield will be in good hands. And if you kind of look at the number of players aged 25 currently or younger in midfield, Hamid Hamdan, Hamid Salafta, Augustin Mansour, this bodes really well for Palestine's future, because you need depth to complement the veterans that are either approaching 30 or on the other end of 30 years old. It's not to say that those players are immediately going to be phased out, but you want there to be a next generation of players, and I think what Ihab Abu Jazar has done very well is that he's given chances to players he's known from Olympic level, and a lot of them have proven themselves. And that is only going to bode well for Palestine's future. Now, like I said, probably need to find more players. But for now, the midfield with those three players under the age of 25, you add in the likes of Jibirl Rajoub, of Jibirl, Hamid Mahajna, as well as like the team's only number 6, who's actually a center back. Then that midfield actually looks very good, and it's got a lot of depth, and it's got a nice mix of veterans. Hamid Mahajna is the youngest of the veterans, aged 29. And then you've got Jibirl, who was born in 94, and Jibirl Rajoub, who was born in 93. So 32 and a 33-year-old this coming year in 2026. But a squad that will be ready to participate in midfield. Let's hope that this move works for Hamid Salafta. I'm actually confident from what I saw at the Arab Cup that this move comes at the right time for him. The other move that we have is a kind of a minor move. Khalid Ghul going to join his brother at Keflavik in in Iceland. He was previously in Croatia, the land of his birth. Khalid Ghul yet to get a call up to the senior national team, but another player that Ihab Abu Jazam knows quite well, having worked with him at Olympic level. I'm looking forward to what could be a fruitful partnership between the two. And now we're sort of in a wait and see mode about potential moves that could happen, right? One thing that's been quite rumored is maybe Wissam Abu Ali goes on a short-term loan somewhere. People have mentioned Turkey. I've also heard some things in the pipeline about him maybe going to another league outside of Europe on a short-term deal to kind of secure more playing time during the World Cup year, because MLS will, I think, stop maybe in late April, early May for the World Cup. And so if he wants to kind of play consistently through the season, then it might make sense for him to move. Don't know if Columbus Crew will let him go though, but this is something to keep an eye out for. I think you have to kind of keep an eye out for all the forwards. The way the transfer market works is if you're a striker and you're scoring goals, teams are going to want you. So teams that want Wissam Abu Ali, they're calling about Wissam Abu Ali all the time. That's no surprise. Ditto Adeta Bag. I don't think either of those two are really going to leave Columbus or Zamalek. They are really kind of centerpieces of the projects that are there. But I think it's worth keeping an eye out because you never know what could materialize at the last minute, really. And then if you look at the other two forwards in the pool, Zed Kumbar is scoring goals. He scored 3 goals for Larabi since coming back from the Arab Cup, and he's going from strength to strength. And obviously, the model he wants to follow is that of Adel Dabbagh, who was at Al Arabi. And in his early 20s, parlayed a really good season with Al Arabi, where he was the top scorer in Kuwait, to first European experience. And if he wants to do that, if he continues with this form, and if he leads Al Arabi to success after success, and keep in mind they're doing quite well in continental competition as well as a result of his goals, then he's going to have opportunities. And finally, last but not least, Asad Al-Hamlawi, he's already at double-digit goal participations. I think he's hit 10 goals across all competitions now, and he's added in a handful of assists. I believe last I checked, it was around 12 goal involvements in 31 appearances. Pretty good for his first season with a new club in a new league, building on the form he showed when he was at Wrocław last season in the Polish top flight. Again, I think probably this transfer window, it's a little too early, but if Asad Al-Hamlawi continues to have, continues to improve and continues to score goals, right, then he will have suitors in the summer, and he will have the types of suitors that I think might push him to make a move. As it stands right now, Asad Al-Hamlawi has suitors. Everything I've heard is that Asad Al-Hamlawi simply does not want to leave Europe to go and play for Al Ahly or to go and play in Morocco or in the Gulf or wherever it may be. But there are teams that are interested in him. It's just that the player himself does not want to leave Europe right now. He has it in his mind that he can go and play in a bigger club. And he's on the right pathway. Craiova is top of the league. Yes, he's not the top goal scorer for the team in the league, but they're still knocking about in the Conference League. And I believe if you kind of factor in what he's done in the qualifying phase of the Conference League, he is their leading scorer in the Conference League. In most Conference League matchups, they wait for Asad Hamnaoui to do something. They're on the outside looking in right now. I don't know if they'll qualify for the next phase. They really let it go through their fingers the last time they played against Ajax Athens, where they were up by a goal and they ended up losing by a goal, and that meant Ajax Athens qualified for the next phase. So I think they're a little bit up against it to qualify for the next phase. But if they do, that's another opportunity for him to put himself in the shop window. And if he ends up winning the Romanian league with Craiova, and he starts to score more goals in the league, then he can most definitely leave. And like I said, he's reached double-digit goals already for the team. If he can reach, let's say, 20 goals scored across all competitions, and add in a couple of assists, then why not? Why not? I think he could definitely move to a bigger league. He could definitely move to smaller clubs in Germany or in Italy's Serie A. I think that's definitely on the cards. So he's gambling on himself, and I like it. I don't blame him whatsoever. It's good to have strikers that are flying the flags in 4 different continents, if you think about it, right? You have Zaid Qandar in Kuwait in Asia. You have Adid Dabbagh with Zamalek in Africa. You've got Wissam Abu Ali in North America with Columbus Crew, and Asad Hamnaoui in Europe with Craiova. And I think if he keeps up this form, the sky's the limit. Really a great story as far as a player believing in himself and fighting for his chance. And the thing I love about Asad, this is a guy that always wanted to play for Palestine. So his commitment to the cause cannot be questioned, and his professional mindset cannot be questioned, because, during the Asian Cup, he was kicking about in Thailand, trying to get a shot at a club in the first tier, and he just kind of had a summer vacation where he scored a bunch of goals in the Thai third league. Moved to Thailand, didn't materialize, so he went back to Sweden, was the top scorer in the Superettan in the second tier, got this move to Poland, scored a bunch of goals for a team that was struggling in the relegation zone, almost saved him thanks to his goal scoring form, and then went to Craiova. Now Craiova is top of the Romanian top flight. So really